Well, sometimes when you're recording a podcast, you realize this is an especially good one. And this episode, I'm just telling you, you're going to love it. A couple reasons why this guest surprised me. So I would ask her questions, and I thought we were kind of going this way, and she would go a different way, and we were all better because of it. So, you know, some of my favorite interviews are the ones that just really don't go the way I planned. And Nancy surprised me. So look forward to a kind of a different free-flowing podcast with an absolute rock star, a woman at the top of her game. Quick note. There's some curse words in this one. Just a few. It's not bad, but if you're in the car with a little one and you care, you know, maybe you want to skip to the next episode, but come back to this one because you're going to like it. All right, get ready. Let's do this thing. Hey everybody, it's Brad Montgomery. I've missed you. Well, the podcast is called Successful, Interesting, and Awesome. And in this case, this guest is successful, interesting, and awesome. It's a hat trick. This person has been a friend of mine for a very long time. We started in entertainment at about the same time, give or take a year or two. But man, she has just gone crazy. She has the main club at main comedy club in Denver, Colorado calls her a Denver legend, which I think is awesome. She has been touring across the country, but I think what is so exciting for me, and one of the things I want you to hear about, is she's won 2 very prestigious comedy contests. She won the Seattle Comedy Festival. We'll ask her what the right name is, but also she was the first woman ever, let that soak in, to win the Boston Comedy Festival. Please welcome to your living room, to your home office, to your car, to your bed. I'm not judging. I don't care. Please say hi to Nancy Norton. Nancy!
Woo! I'm giving myself applause. High five your screens, everybody. I've got my sound machine, Brad. I never bomb, okay? I never bomb. Not when you got old trusty sidekick over here.
I love that. Well, okay, so those of you who are listening, what you can't tell right now is that Nancy, you've got a really cool virtual setup, and obviously you have your sound machine you're joking about. Let's start there. How was the pandemic for you?
I'll show it to you. I'll pan down with my camera so if you can find. Wait, I'm dyslexic on this. Oh, there it is.
Look at that.
There it is. That is the Rodecaster. Okay, that has laugh tracks on it and some other fun stuff that I feel like that episode of the Lucille Ball show where she keeps hitting the wrong buttons. I don't know if you ever saw.
Right,
You're too young. But anyway, like, you've got crickets. Just when jokes are pretty bad, or for puns, if you ever do a pun. Okay. What else do I have? Oh, I don't use it that often, but just every now and then it's helpful. And then, of course, sometimes I just come out here and play that.
Nice.
I just play that. I just practice my jokes and go, that's a great joke.
Well, let's just get into it. Clearly, you've embraced the virtual part of the pandemic. How as we record this, we hope we're coming out of the pandemic. It seems like we're coming out. How was it for you?
How's your pandemic hanging, folks?
Yeah.
My pandemic, it was a mixed review, like a lot of you. I was blessed, I'm going to go ahead and say it, to have an intersection with an organization that had chapters all over the country and needed some content. And I was able to do lots and lots and lots of shows for this organization on this virtual platform. And I really, at first, I had cotton mouth. It was like I was starting over. And I felt like, I'm not used to the quiet. After that's, this helps a little bit. I try not to abuse the laugh track. And I did learn how to coax people into opening their cameras. It's a hell gig now on a virtual platform is when it's just you're talking to rectangles with names,
right? Like
a corporate gig where nobody opens their camera or microphone. And You're just like, and I will heckle their names. Scott Peterson, I'm talking to you. I will just try to riff with people's names. I have to, because that's my style. I'm a this kind of comedian. I'm not so much, I just talk about this. I need to hear back.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of this. I do stuff like into the camera. Like I'm not used to your non-mirror thing. It's kind of interesting to have the dyslexia. I can't even find the camera. Yeah. I play with the camera, interact. that did not answer your question. How was it? Hell. It was hell. But it was okay. I survived and I fed my family. I had a nice year with my son, who was 15 when it started. Now he's 17. He's about to graduate high school. So it was nice. Actually had some really quality time, played a lot of chess, listened to a lot of AC/DC that he was trying to work out on the guitar, played a lot of ping pong in the garage. I can't complain, you know.
Yeah, I know. Well, because like I thought the pandemic was really hard, but then it's hard to moan when you think about healthcare workers and
And
ambulance
especially,
drivers going into apartment buildings.
absolutely. And I am a registered nurse, and I did re-up my nursing license. I am still a registered nurse in the state of Colorado, but way underqualified. But I do know that they were letting people go back into healthcare and work, above their scope of practice. But I thought, now, what would I be qualified to do? And I actually thought foot care, because I kept seeing ads for foot care nurses. But then honestly, I didn't want to go get exposed to COVID. So I admire our frontline workers so much.
Yeah.
They're so brave. The only foot care patients I thought I would take were people that had a cat, where if they could put their foot out the cat door, I could file their heels and clip their nails and take it back in. You know what I'm saying?
I would love to see you. Like, hi, it's me, Nancy. I'm your nurse. Don't open the door. Put your
Stick
foot
your
out the
foot
dog
out
door.
the cat door. Stick your foot out the window.
There is so much I want to talk to you, Nancy Norton. Let's start more recent and then go backwards. You're a winner of two really big deal contests.
I am so grateful for those. I have to say, I feel a little different after winning them. I feel a little validated. Like I never really won competitions. I always choked. I was a choker, not a joker. And so this time, honestly, I didn't go there to win. I went to practice the 5-minute sets because I've gotten sloppy 45s. I headline a lot, so you can really meander through a story. And Brad, I never did my life dream and still have not, which was I wanted to be on the Tonight Show since I was 4 years old. So the year I started stand up professionally, or started touring, I should say, 91 or 2. What year was it? 93? I don't know. It was right there in the beginning when I was touring. Johnny Carson died, or no, retired. He didn't die. He retired. Sorry. But yeah, it kind of took the wind out of my sails. Like, oh, that was going to be my thing, to be on there with Johnny Carson. So anyway, I never have yet even been on a late night talk show like that. So I thought maybe before I die, I could do that. So I went to practice 5-minute sets and under pressure, where you're in a competition, it's very intense. So trying to be funny while people are judging you, like literally with clipboards and timers, and you go 10 seconds over, you lose a point. It's very, rigid and competitive, and it's just hard to channel your funny when you're under that pressure. So I wanted to challenge myself to do that. So that's what I went to do.
Well, back up. Because what about those of us who don't understand what a comedy contest is? So I just learned something. It's a tight 5 minutes. How
they have
does that
different
work?
times. There are different times for different competitions. So how it works, look, so let's say Boston. So Boston Comedy Festival is just a, was it 4 days, 5 days? It's just a week-long festival. I want to say it's 4 or 5 days. Now I can't remember because this was 2018. It's not that long ago, but for Uncle Nance, it was a while back. But it's a 1 week thing. I mean, I think it was I want to say it was 4 days. So there's the preliminary round, then the semifinal, then what is that? What's after preliminary?
Preliminary X. Preliminary plus.
I don't know. There are 4 rounds, and then you get to semifinals, then you get to the finals. Okay. So, all right, that's in Boston. And my friend, John Novosad, who had done that competition once, was my coach. And he told me, look, be prepared. That first round, there's like, you're in this, maybe a place that is not set up for comedy. It might be set up for comedy, but often the first rounds are in weird venues or not well attended. And just make sure you're ready for that you're ready for perhaps a smattering of an audience and no response and just like
Right.
boom, boom, boom. So that was helpful. And so the first round was kind of like that in a small theater that had, not more empty seats than full ones. And um, yeah, you just had 5 minutes, and then there's somebody with a light, and I don't know if that competition gave you any signal. Some of them will give you a 30-second light, which is helpful. In Seattle, they did that. But in this one, I feel like I can't remember. I just know I set a timer in my pocket so that it would buzz. And I think that one was 5 minutes for the first round. And it was the coolest thing I figured out for my style, which is I need a breath of improv. I honestly, my writing I'm not a tight one-liner writer. I'm a emotional writer. So I need to have that passion in my material. And I left an extra minute of time, a whole minute. So what is that? 20%. I
No
left
way.
20% extra time. So that I could
A whole
riff,
minute out of 5 minutes. You left a minute blank for you to be Nancy.
to breathe and to allow it not to feel rushed. And because in the other competitions, I always like, stop laughing. I got to get this material in here.
Right,
This is
yeah.
important. You got to hear my bits. It was all about me and getting my bits out. And this was more of I could really be in the flow and really embrace it and pause, like, the power of the pause, as we know.
So how does that work? So they introduce you. You're in a mediocre room with a mediocre audience. You do your minutes, and then you worry if you made it to the next step.
Then the judges will come out and announce who made it to the next round. And you don't know. You can never tell. It depends on the judge's taste. What did they like? What didn't they like? I'm trying to think if it was that round. I think it might have been the first round where one of the judges had to go to the bathroom right before my set. And coincidentally, the exit to the bathroom was also the entrance to the stage area. So I'm standing right behind this crack in the curtain, like waiting for them to announce me. And she says, "Wait, hold up. I have to go to the bathroom." I didn't hear that part. All I know is she ran right into me, like pummeled me, like kind of, what happened,
Right.
And like I go, okay, all right, this is a good sign. But it's one of those kinds of things that gets you out. I was getting a little too out of my body, and it really brought me right back into my body, and it was great. And then when I came out, I had that extra minute. I could acknowledge it and go, "Are we good?" Because
Right.
I'm good with you if you're good with me. It's not even that funny. It's just something that you acknowledge that just happened.
Right. It makes you a little bit more personable. Like, oh, this woman's actually in the room with us.
I'm in the room. Yeah, that's my whole secret. Be in the room.
Well, all right. So then you start to get it going, and then at some point you're in your fourth round. It sounds like.
Yeah. So the finals.
And what's that like?
Yes, the finals.
Oh, wait, back up. Are you doing the same material for each round or new material?
You were allowed to, in that competition. Were we allowed to repeat? Some competitions you cannot, and some you can. Oh, I'm trying to remember if I repeated material in that one. I think you could. I think I could repeat some material. I definitely had themes. So, I'm a former nurse, I'm from the Ozarks, and I'm a single mom. So I have these chunks like about these themes. So I tended to do, like, I think the first round I did the most accessible material, which is I'm from the Ozarks, let's talk about that. Then I think the next round I talked about I'm a single mom, and then the third round I might have done, committed to nurse material. And then the fourth round, that's right. The fourth round, I was able to really embrace my whole self and bring in a little bit of all of that, and then show them I could do a little bit of everything. I do voices, I act out, I have tight, some punchlines, and I sing. And I sang.
You sang at the final?
I milked it. Yeah, I do. I closed with this really dorky song parody of Spider Veins. Spider-Man to Spider Veins, about Spider Veins. And I sold the shit out of it. Can we say shit on your podcast?
Well, we just did. But,
Is this a family friendly?
bring us in your head. Like I would be, Nancy, I would be terrified each time I got further. I'm not sure if my confidence would go up as in, hey, I'm doing well, or oh my gosh, now it's harder.
Oh, you
What was
mean
it
with
like?
each round?
Well, I'm just wondering, like your confidence level as you go through those a 4-day festival. Do you
Yeah.
start to get
The
nervous,
first
or do you
rounds,
get
I gotta be
confident?
honest, in my experience, the very first rounds are the most random, hardest rounds because again, not always set up for stand up. So it's like, oh, I have to, somehow convince these people I am doing stand up, even if there may not be a setup for stand up. The first rounds are the hardest, and then they get more consistent. I mean, there's more audience, and then that last round was in this gorgeous old theater. I don't know how many it seats. I would say 800 to 1,000 or
Oh wow,
something, like a
nice.
big theater, Somerville Theater. I don't know. I don't know if it's anyway. It's a big theater and it's gorgeous and it's historic and they have like these beautiful lighting and it's a show, man. And
That must have
it
been,
was
shoot, I'd like to play a room like that anyway.
I know it's so fun and to enjoy it. And I had a couple of serendipities that I can't take credit for. One is actually I do a joke that I'm a bisexual. I have sex every 3.14159 years. So I'm bragging. I think I'm behind right now. But I will say that the first 3 rows were all these people from MIT. And I guess they have a pie thing. And that joke was like, and then I went on. So they liked it enough. I could do the tag, which is, come on, bisexuals, join my parade out here on Somerville Square, whatever it was called. And we're going to march in a big circle on the square and then divide ourselves by our diameter. And then that goes on and on and on. So bring a sack lunch. Anyway, they loved it. And that just helped me like
Yeah,
raise the
I
roof of
can
that
picture that
theater.
feeling where you're like, oh, this is going well. Those people in the front love me.
Yeah, you get those little lucky moments. That was lucky.
Well, you made your luck.
Yeah, yeah, some of it.
Well, all right. So you said you sold the shit out of it for that last thing, and you sang your song. Then how does that work? You're standing there with the other finalists, and they're going to announce the runner up. And can you give us what does that feel like, and what happened?
Well, what was cool in this particular competition, there was no runner up. It was winner take all.
Oh,
So you didn't have that suspense of this person's third, this person's second, who's
right.
going to be first. So we're all 8 of us are standing there sort of in a semicircle behind Jim McHugh, who's one of the producers, who is also a comedian, who is doing the announcement. And so it was really, here's one thing I want to share that happened with the women. There were 4 women in the finals, and we were in this green room alone. I'm not alone, but just the women. The men were off doing their pacing or drinking beer or whatever they were doing. I don't know. They weren't there. So we all got in a little circle, and that we realized no woman had ever won the Boston Comedy Festival. It had been going 20 years. And so we all just got together, and one of them said, one of us is winning this. And I got goosebumps. And then we did this kind of like a basketball thing that we used to do in the old days, where you put your hands in the
Oh
middle
yeah.
and we said, one of us. And we threw it up to the sky.
Oh
And a
neat.
lightning feeling just went through my body, like, and I could just feel it that it's possibly going to be me. I felt this energy all through my body. And I brought that to the stage and I put it to the back row. And I think people feel that. I feel it
Yeah.
even now. I got goosebumps now saying it.
Oh
And I believe in the energy. So this is one of my things with comedy right now is I am more into heart connection, energy connection over content. I do still love writing jokes, but I mostly tell stories and have funny endings usually. Sometimes they don't have an ending, I've noticed lately. I got to start writing endings again.
well, last time I saw you were on fire. You were amazing. But so why? So they call your name, and the winner is what? What's that
Yeah.
like?
It was I think one of the best moments of my life. I put it up there with when I left Nepal with my son, when he was in the seat in the plane next to me and I knew it was for real. I had this like amazing, just my spirit was just as big as the world. Just felt I felt that oneness.
Oh,
Um, that was right up there with that same, like, I mean, but this was more of a shock because even though I wanted to believe it and I did, think I had a chance, I still was shocked when they called my name. And at this age too, because at that time, I'm over 60 now. So at that time, I think I was 58. So I was just like, at this age, that's one of the things I said at the microphone. I was just shocked that not only did they reward a woman, but a woman of this age, like,
yeah.
wow, it was so, I just was, I was ecstatic and sort of so much energy that I was in shock. I love this. There's some great pictures from that festival of me just, clearly you can see I'm in three kinds of shock and excitement. Yeah.
Oh, I love hearing that. All right, so
Yeah.
there were 4 women. You were bonded. I'm assuming all 7 people who did not win were supportive of you. But I'm guessing that the women got a supercharge out of, I'm glad it was a woman.
Yeah, one of the women who I really loved, I loved her comedy, and I think she went on to be in the finals maybe the next year or the next year, even though I think it was online. I'm not sure, but Janet McNamara, I just love her comedy, and she didn't get into the finals, but I mean, in my heart should have, but she was videoing it on her phone. And it was so, like, I wish I could get a copy of that because she posted it, but then I don't know how to save it. But it was just her saying, yes, yes, yes. Like, it was so important to her that we broke that
Yeah,
glass ceiling. And it just, and then the women, I mean, I'm sure mixed feelings because obviously everybody's in the finals for a reason. So I think they were happy, but
right, right.
perhaps,
Of course you prefer to win.
yeah,
Well,
right.
this kind of leads us to something else I wanted to talk to you about. Sexism in entertainment and comedy. And I wonder if you have any stories about, is it getting better? I mean, we have the first women winner here, but is it getting better? And then also, a related question is, have you had to change your act? Because there's not a speaker or a comedian I know who hasn't said, oh man, I told this joke years ago. I cannot believe I did that.
Oh, because of misogyny or
Yeah, because it just
patriarchal,
was out
you
of
don't
touch and
realize, like, now that you have sensitivity, you're like, "Ooh, I
right,
didn't realize
like
that was somewhat
right. That's horrible. I can't
hurtful."
believe I did that.
Oh, sure, yeah. Well, okay, good questions. So many layers for my reality, and I I think I what's interesting about me is I'm just now coming out to myself as non-binary. Like, I don't buy into, I definitely am female. I mean, I know that. I'm female sexed and I embrace my femininity, but I'm also, as far as gender roles go, I never have subscribed to them, never. And I never knew that there was a term. So for me, gender, which is different than sex, right? And to me, this is about roles. I have never subscribed to gender roles since I was the smallest person that I recall. I've always been a little bit of a tomboy, but also I like to play dolls. I like to play, with my easy bake oven. And I also like to play cowboys and army. And I just never understood why we couldn't do it all,
Right.
for me anyway. So maybe I'm cheating a little bit because I don't necessarily subscribe to those gender role limitations. That's not answering your question, but I'm just saying that gives you insight where I'm coming
Yeah.
from. Um, so I did have to change my act. One of the things, like in the 90s, I also came out as a lesbian. And then in the whatever year, I don't know, 2000 some, let me think now. When was that? About 2014, fell in love with a man again. So I came out as a retired lesbian. I retired from lesbianism after 20 years of service, 3 tours. One of those was in Alabama, so that was extra credit. But anyway, you know, so I don't know about me. I think because I am on the crosshairs, like, like they talk about the Myers-Briggs,
Mhm.
personality profile
Yeah.
thing. I don't know, as far as, gender, I just feel like I'm on the crosshairs of everything, like, and then even in the LGBTQ now, I just, I know people say this, but I really am kinda losing my labels even though non-binary, I don't think that's a label, I think that's just a belief, like, I don't believe engender roles.
Well, does that affect your comedy? Yeah, and do you talk about? By the way, you said you've just come out to yourself as non-binary. Maybe the right words for me is congratulations. I don't know.
Yeah.
Does it feel
Yeah,
like a relief?
I think it is. Yeah, because I do find it kind of a relief. Like I used to think I had gender dysphoria, and then I realized no, I just had society dysphoria. I just don't
Oh,
understand why society couldn't just embrace whoever I am or whoever anybody is. Let them wear whatever, let them do whatever. It's whatever it doesn't matter what their chromosomes are saying. Just do whatever you want.
right.
Be with whoever you want. That but anyway, that's very overgeneralized statement. But thank you. I find it liberating. I just find it like, oh, that's cool. I like that the kids are teaching me nomenclature. Like, oh, but my act now, I think because I'm over 60, I've been rebranding myself as Uncle Nance, like, listen to your Uncle Nance, and I'm sort of giving advice to the kids and I call them kids. A lot of time I call the audience kids because honestly, a lot of times they are 30 years younger than me and my peers are 30 years younger than me. And I still play well to the millennial crowds, but I'm acknowledging, you know, I don't know,
Right. You're
my
not 30.
difference. I am not 30. I'm not even 14. I still I look in the mirror and I go, gosh, I feel like a 14-year-old boy in my mind sometimes. Like I have like that kind of boyish energy. And then I look and see that my neck fell and my jowls came in and all that. Like, oh, grandma.
Well, with my stuff, I notice as I age, I am braver to have an opinion, and allow me to explain. And I promise there's a question following. It used to be when I was young, I'm like, oh, how am I supposed to stand in front of an audience and tell them, here's how it is? Because I knew I was a punk. I just knew that I was too young to own a big opinion. And now I feel like, well, yeah, based on my considerable life experience, I know these things to be true, and I'm going to tell you what I know is true. And I didn't have that when I was younger. Does that ring true to you at all? Can you
I
comment on
love
that?
that you said that. I just had Okay, I'm gonna tell you, I'm doing trauma therapy from lots of childhood wounds, and that's what makes this funny, right? I mean, I don't know your story, but I'm just saying I'm willing to come out as having some trauma in my childhood, and whatever therapy I did recently, which is this really, I don't know if you've read Michael Pollan's book, but he's dealing like psychedelics and psilocybin, and I did this 6-hour therapy journey and I came out of it with, I can trust my knowing heart. Like I can trust my knowing. I think there's been a part of me that has not trusted myself forever. So it's cool. Like you came to it out of natural maturity. I had to have a little help from a friend, but I got there and I'm really enjoying that intuition and that knowing. And some of it's like, wisdom, things that from life experience, but some of it is just knowing in this moment what is called for.
Mm,
And honestly, there is something happening that's different for me, that's shifting, where my focus is now. I am trying to be of service. And even though I love the attention from strangers, still that little kid in me loves that. But the 61-year-old woman really wants to be of service and help
yeah.
people know that they're okay.
Yeah, I
That's
remember
over.
as a young entertainer, I remember somebody saying, "Oh, you're here for the audience. It's about the audience." And I'm like, "Pfft." Right? Like to me it's a battle. Like I'm going to try to beat the audience. I'm not here for the audience. I'm going to own them. I'm going to, you
Oh,
know,
yeah, you're gonna power trip on him, huh?
right. Yeah. Or like, aren't we comedians say, "Oh, how's the audience? Oh, I killed, you know,
Yeah,
I dominated, whatever." And as I age, I'm a little bit more in the audience's mind in the same way I think you talking about like,
yeah,
"Oh, I am here for you." And that makes me better. It's more fun, isn't it?
yeah, it's freeing, and I also talk about the space in between. So I'm saying it's not about them, it's not about me, it's about this space in between. Let's expand it. Let's play in that space. The
Well,
merging of
I
the
don't know what that
merging of
space is.
us.
What do you mean that space in between?
Oh, it's the mirror neurons that, kind of leave your brain and go into mine, where we occupy almost like a hologram, between us. We become we have that oneness, whatever that is, the space between that I want to expand the connection.
Ah,
That is not either you or me. It's like, let's celebrate that
yeah.
energy between us and that knowing of the, I am getting kind of spiritual, that oneness, I'm really into that.
Yeah, you got
I
pretty
am into
woo-woo.
that.
For the record, that was very woo-woo.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well,
That
it,
should
that
scare, that should
what you
scare some
just
listeners.
what you just said is totally consistent with your style, because you said, I don't love being tightly written and scripted. I love the impromptu and the being in the moment. And
Yeah.
that strikes me as you're saying I like to play in that space between the audience and me. Am I close?
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I think so. And see what wants to happen. What's called forth here. And now don't get me wrong. I am doing bits. I have bits that I have written that are, some of them are older than, the kids that are at the show. I mean, but they get nuance in them that gives them a little more life and dynamic.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Ah, well done. It's so fun watching you. One of the things when I saw you work last time, I just saw extreme confidence. That's when I was watching you, I'm like, this woman knows how talented she is. And you were beaming that, and it was very attractive. It was like it made you more powerful. It just made you even more entertaining.
Oh, thanks, Brad.
That's what I saw. Is that what's happening, or did I misread it?
Yeah, I think that what you saw was, let's take me out of it. Okay, because I'm gonna go even more woo-woo. You may not,
Bring it.
you can edit this out. But I actually, behind the curtain, I am in a recovery program. I have turned my life and will over to the care of God. So I
Well,
actually do. I actually do ask for God, like, let this be for the highest good and whatever that is, and I will do my best to deliver that. And it's not about me, which is really nice. So there's still a very insecure little girl inside of me, who's maybe still, needing comfort. I still have trauma work to do, but it's really when I kind of push my own ego aside a little bit and just like let that light come through me and let that energy come through me. And I do have 30 years of skill set I've worked on,
yeah.
so I can merge that. Where did you see me? Was that at the
Last time I
fundraiser?
saw you was you were roasting Kevin Fitzgerald, a
Oh,
well-known Denver comedian.
that was a fundraiser for the zoo, right?
Right, and it was interesting because there were different comedians up, so we got to see different styles back to back to back, and every single person on stage was fantastic. But
Yeah.
I was with non-comedians, and they were like, "That Nancy lady, whew, she's amazing."
She ain't no lady. That's
That
nice.
Nancy binary person.
Yeah, that Nancy. Yeah, it's funny. I was thinking, I'm trying to work on a bit about having non-binary eyeballs too. Like, yeah, no, I have no binocular vision. Just so you know, I mean, I keep trying to pull my eye in as we're talking, and I can see it drifting out in the little reflection. But the point is, yeah, I was really like, let's have fun. Let's raise some money for the zoo. The roast. Try not to and I sang that night too, didn't I? Because I don't know
Yeah, you
why. I
did.
can't even sing that well, but I love it. I love singing. I should take some voice lessons.
When I saw
But
you do that, I thought she is so brave. That's what that's
I
because you
was.
did great, but
I
that's
I will tell
scary.
you, courage is rewarded, because I was walking from the parking lot and I was editing and going, I don't know if I have the courage to do that. Okay, my father, who, this is all going to be very spiritual. Your viewers will be like heckling me, but I'm just saying, I have angels on my shoulder all the time. My dad, who was an amazing vocalist, was I can't remember how. I just knew. I think he said, "Courage will be rewarded. Just do that." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, let's reward whatever that spirit that came to me to begin with to do the song." I was about to chicken out, and then, but once you do it, and again, you can, I don't know, just prepare for the slight swearing. Sell the shit out of it. That's what I say. If you're gonna do it, man, sell the shit out of it. Sell it.
Well, that was that
Boom.
confidence I saw, because I
Commit.
just thought you weren't sort of putting it out there. You were like, everybody watch this. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, this is maybe the difference between, I mean, confidence is a word, but commitment,
Hmm.
that's the word. Yeah, I commit to it completely. Even if I can't, even if I can't hit all the notes, I'm going to commit completely with every part of me and do my best. And Wendy, the owner of the Comedy Works, actually is an amazing gifted singer. And I was the most scared about, like, oh God, Wendy's going to be horrified that Nancy's belting out song, you know, the wreck
Oh,
of the Kevin Fitzgerald.
well, I've been watching you for a long time. As I said, we started at very similar times, and it has been a treat watching you get some well-deserved attention. It's just, it's fun for me to see. Oh, see, sometimes the good people do finish first.
Good, I don't know, but I'm doing my best. And I think, when you were saying Denver legend, I was thinking, well, maybe just the fact that I have this much perseverance, because I have been what I call on a slow rise to mediocrity, and um and maybe mastery at a, I don't know. When I got that prize in Boston, it was $10,000 prize, and I remember telling myself, "Nancy, you've done the 10,000 hours. Go get the $10,000." I really was able to calmly and clearly say that to myself. Like, I
Uh,
really have.
yeah.
I've had so many hours on stage, and man, I should be, of a level that I could win that prize. So I allowed myself. I got out of my own way for once.
Well, bravo. Let me switch this topics a little bit, but we're still on you and comedy. You said
Am I
you're in
being
a
too
recovery
serious?
program. I didn't know that. Um,
Yeah,
my
I'm in a
experience with comedy clubs is that the comedians sit in the back and drink.
yeah.
So, what's that like for you if you're in recovery and you're with people who are putting it back?
Well, I'm not in recovery for addiction to alcohol or drugs. I'm in recovery for codependency. I tend
Oh,
to I tend to attract alcoholics, marry them, and also sociopaths. To be honest, not all of my exes have been. Some are just emotionally unavailable. Some are all the way over on the continuum of a complete lack of empathy, which is something I'm still working on healing, honestly. So yeah, I'm in recovery for codependency. I don't have a problem. I mean, as far as I know, I've not had a problem with alcohol. I do enjoy it though. Occasionally, I do drink, and I'm recognizing though I'm definitely using the spirits to cope with some anxiety
mm,
sometimes. So
yeah.
I'm not above it all. I'm just saying that's not my issue as much as codependency, which I don't know if you know about codependency, but we yeah, we tend to focus on other people's problems and not our own, and not heal ourselves. We try to heal others. So this is where, the comedy is kind of interesting. I'm trying to channel my mission statement to heal myself and others, help heal myself and others. I can't heal somebody that doesn't want to heal, but if I can put a little spark in there that reminds you who you really are, that feels good to me. If that might help you love yourself a little more, that'd be great.
Thanks to Brene Brown, it seems like a buzzword lately has been vulnerability. You are the most vulnerable. You're
I
so
gotta tell you,
touching.
I thought I came up with that. I wrote that in a journal 25 years ago. I wrote, my vulnerability is my strength. And when Brene Brown hit, I was like, that's right.
Yeah.
She's onto it. But I mean, a lot of times self-help books say things that, oh my gosh, I've had that thought, where that's really validating. So yeah, vulnerability, I think, is a strength. I really do. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just saying you're good at it because you're just so open and it's so refreshing and fun.
What's your
Let me,
what's your uh what's your vulnerability? You want to share? Let's be vulnerable. We can have a contest. Let's see who can be the most vulnerable.
I feel like you saying you've come out to yourself as non-binary and you're recovering from, what was the right phrase? Your
Uh, Codependency?
codependency, right? You got
Yeah.
me beat. I feel like I got nothing.
You got nothing, Brad.
I,
Well, good for you. That's awesome though, that perhaps, you, yeah, you don't have
well,
those
so
kind
much
of
has been
issues.
written about, in order to be a comedian, uh, you got to have a difficult past, or it just seems like that. And I've definitely heard other people talk about that. You seem to be a poster child for that concept. This is why you're winning contests and I'm not, because I didn't have a traumatic background and I had two parents who loved each other and there was no
Mm.
violence or abuse. There was no, we had money. Everything was okay.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, but the thing is, what's cool about you is that you are willfully vulnerable, where you have empathy. I can feel that. You are willing to see your privilege. You're saying these things. We had money. You're a white male in America. You have a lot of privilege handed to you, and I think you're aware of it, which is really cool. A lot of people aren't.
Well,
So,
I'd like to say I knew it all along, but I got to say I've been learning a lot in the past 3 years.
well, it's one of those things you can't know it when you're on the inside. I've been in the marginalized groups since when I came out in the early 90s. Then all of a sudden you realize, ooh, this is what it's like to live in the United States of America as a marginalized citizen. And when I toured in the 90s, I'm most proud of my work in the 90s because I wanted people to meet the lesbian next door. I came out on Evening at the Improv before Ellen, before Rosie, before anybody had come out on television. I was very proud of that. Marsha Warfield that was the host, and I mean the look she gave me when I finished my set was like, whoa, And I'm proud of that, doing that, and being vulnerable in that way. It I had a big block that came up from that, but that was because of my mother, and that's a whole nother story we don't need to go into. But I had to kind of keep myself on the down low and not be
Mm.
on national television because it was too much for my mother. And
Oh,
she still kind of controls me. So just know I am still a little inhibited by her.
it's amazing how we can be grown-ups and still so deeply affected by our parents, isn't it?
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm always been interested in, and now when I'm working in front of an audience, I talk about social and emotional support, which really just means helping each other and acknowledgement and kindness. I want to tell you a story about me in comedy and then me in speaking and ask you to comment on it because I'm really curious what your take is on this. I was doing comedy clubs and I never got very far. So I was opening and middling and at the lower end clubs in Denver. And I remember talking to every headliner saying, well, I think you're amazing. Would you be willing to watch my set? And I don't even know what to ask you. Could you coach me or help me? Or I don't know. Could you help? And they would nod dutifully. And then I would walk off and they would say, nice set, Brad. And I took that to mean, screw you. I did it the hard way. I knocked it out. I just kept hitting that nail with the hammer until it started working. You're going to do the same thing. I'm not going to give you any shortcuts. Then I switched to speaking, and speakers are way more helpful to each other. So I see that chasm between entertainers seem to have this limited thing until you're in the inside, or I don't know what the magic password is. And speakers are not that way. Has that been your experience? And that when you were coming up, did you have older comedians help you, or did they just say, good luck, it's hard?
Wow. Okay. First of all, I want to acknowledge that sounds painful. Did they? At least they didn't say nice shirt. That is a sign that we have a little code in the comedy back in the 90s. Like if somebody said nice shirt, that meant, why are you doing comedy? Nice
Oh,
shirt. Anybody
I
ever say
didn't know
nice
that.
shirt? Ow. That's like, dude, you know what I mean? Maybe because you don't have the trauma. Comedians, we like really edgy, dark, take us to a new place. Maybe they didn't know what to say. I don't know, Brad. Like, why? It's just what they like to reward is originality, risk taking, creativity. Maybe you weren't taking enough risks, or maybe you weren't really showing up the way that they wanted. I don't know. To me, it would seem like did I say that? What did you ever ask me? And did I
No,
say
no,
nice
no.
set?
Ever since I
I
met
was
you,
just
you're nice.
curious. I'm trying to think what I would say if I, uh,
But
because
by the
I
way,
would, what
you
I might have, I wish, I mean, honestly, I do mentor people. So what I do, and I want them to fail. I want them to fail 50% of the time. I want them taking chances. I'm like, I don't know you. Who are you? What did you really do there? I mean, I'm a kind of that. I am a mentor to a few comedians. okay, for me, my experience was not like that. So then I'm going to feel like an asshole if I tell you, no, they weren't like that at all. In fact, like they were like, holy shit, where have you been? And that joke, here's a tag. I've got another tag. Here's another tag. Here's another thing that might work. And I actually have several jokes in my act that have been given, like the tags I love, and I sell people's material better than my own because I actually think most people are better writers than me. So I was like, oh man, that's so funny. Because a lot of times you're too close to the material. So they would give me like one of the
Were you
tags
getting
somebody
help
gave me.
when you were opening and middling, or just later on when you started proving
No,
yourself?
well, here's the thing. So I started in Honolulu, Hawaii. Weird place, okay, to start comedy, where I was working as a hospice nurse. So I worked 3 years at the Honolulu Comedy Club as the house MC. And I sucked. I was terrible. I mean, the first time I went on stage, I killed, and I don't know, it was a magic. That's a long story, but it was just everything was set up for me to like, I had written this material. I had a shaky voice. Like I had that like, blah, and
Right.
I did a postmenopausal smoker to cover my shaky voice. I was like, I'm Velma. I haven't had a drink since 1955. I don't care if that is 5 till 8 in military time. Still pretty good for me. And then I went on to do anyway. So the owner hired me on the spot after that set. And then I proceeded to bomb for 2 years in a row. Like so nervous, cotton mouth, can't do it. But then, the comedians that came through did try to help me. They were like, look, because it was, so bad. I think that's why. They were like, Nancy, okay, you don't have to do new jokes every night, first of all. Second of all, it's a science. Let me tell you a little about the science, because I was
Right.
so in the romantic phase, I didn't even know how comedy worked. I'd never even been in a comedy club. So I was trying to do a new thing every time and flop. And then I finally got like a little bit of a set built. And I had this closer that is somewhat homophobic now that I look at it. But anyway, I don't know. It was anyway. I had one joke that hit, and that was my closer. So comics would come through and try to coach me a little bit, but I was an artist, so I was kind of I wanted to figure it out myself.
Right. Right.
So that's true. Then I had been doing it 3 years, and I had just a bit of a set built. Drove all around the country, tried comedy in all these different towns, see where I wanted to live. Got to Denver, and I did my set, and the bad boys of comedy and all these people were like shaking my hand and like, welcome to Denver. Who's doing Recessa Annie jokes? Nobody. Who's doing this? Nobody. And they were just kind of clapping me on the back and welcoming me. And I'm like, this is my home. So that's how my journey was.
Well, now I'm just jealous and bitter.
Well, if you think back about what you were doing then,
It was awful.
do you think but maybe it was because they didn't know, like you were playing it safe, right? Maybe you were doing, I don't know what, I can't remember like
Well,
the joke.
I was doing magic, so that was a
That's right.
problem. But also,
Oh,
I was doing some stand up in there trying, and I didn't know what I was doing, and I needed someone to put their arm around me and say, "Oh, honey bunch, it's a science. Oh,
yeah.
you're doing material for someone who's not you. This is this is so weird."
Right.
But
And
it would have been so easy to give me a few hints
yeah,
because
I
I
would
was
have.
so horrible.
I guess I didn't though. I mean, but I was an opener too, so you weren't asking. I was hitting half the time,
No,
missing a
you
lot.
were always, you have been nice to me.
Really good.
Yeah. One
Well,
day
I
when
mean,
we're not recording
not
this,
that
I'll tell you
I
some of
just
the
mean
names.
that. But I wasn't helpful. Maybe I didn't say, hey, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I probably didn't have the confidence to tell anybody anything at that point. But Brad, okay, let's trust our path for sure, because it kind of nudged you into the speaker world where you got nurtured. And that's like, oh, this is my home. This is my home is in the speaker world, not among these, pretty rough comedians that, really come from a lot of trauma, who actually want other people to relate to them in the same way. Like they really have that trauma. What is the word I'm looking for? That dark sense of humor, man.
Yeah.
That that dark sense of humor. And my jokes were, about nursing because nurses have a dark sense of humor. We had to survive seeing a lot of vicarious trauma.
Well,
I
it makes
mean,
me happy though that right, even from the beginning when you were horrible, you had people helping a little bit, and then you came to Denver and people were very welcoming. That makes me happy, and that gives me
thank
hope.
you. Yeah. Well, and maybe it's just a sign that you're on your path. Like, okay, the universe is like, okay, we're going to put people around you that are going to encourage you on your path. And maybe the universe was like, Brad, this might not be your path. Maybe your path is exactly where you are, right? So,
No, I reject that because I was too young and stupid to know. Like, like that could have been my path. I just
well,
didn't know
then
anything about
if
it.
it could have been, then it still can be, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah, it could be.
okay. So now, like you're saying, hey, you have this new, you're willing to share opinions now. You have a knowing that you can trust. Maybe this is your time to get back into stand up. Maybe this is it.
Ooh.
I'm happy to mentor you for what it's worth.
Too late. You already are mentoring me.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, there's so many speakers right now that are crossing over into stand up that, I mean, the women I work with, Andrea Vall and
Yeah.
um,
Merit.
Stacey Peterson and Merritt and all these people, they're kind of crossing over from speaking into stand up. Why can't you can too if you want? All are
All right.
welcome.
I'm putting a
You
pin
are
in that.
welcome. Do it.
Oh, oh.
Do it.
We were talking about acknowledgement and encouragement. So now it's time for me to ask you, who did that for you? So, like, if you were to say, Brad, is there anybody who kind of took you under their wing or gave you that compliment when you needed it most?
Yeah.
I've got a short list of people that were crazy powerful. Who comes to mind when I ask you who built you up?
Well, okay. So from first of all, from early childhood, who invited me forward was my grandmother, who honestly went through such a horrific trauma in her life, but had this amazing sense of humor. So she was my whatever that is. Like she laughed with me and told me, you have something and you have a light, and I invite your light. It was
Mm,
not my parents, but my grandmother. But then, when I started stand up, actually, like I said, the first 3 years were really rough. I'm surprised that the owner of that comedy club had me back to MC. Honestly, I was so bad, but eh, but people did. I guess that was more of a like they tolerated me,
mm-hmm.
which was a gift
Right.
because it was horrible. And then when I got to Denver, Phil Palisaw and Nora Lynch are married. They were the ones that were like clapping me on the back, going, "Who's doing that? Nobody." We're welcome to Denver. I mean, it was just this feeling.
Oh,
I felt that gave me. It was so fun to come to a new environment. You know how when you come up in a scene too, Brad, it's hard to overcome those original role sets, like where you have this like you're seen as the newbie. It's hard to transcend those. So it was fun to go from where 3 years of doing stand up, where I had probably worked on some skills and
right.
didn't have the cotton mouth anymore. So yeah, there's that. Yeah, that was nice to come into a new scene as sort of knew kind of what I was doing, and then I was able to start touring right away.
That's such an interesting answer because part of it is geography. Part of what encouraged you was changing your
Changing the
pool.
scene. Yeah, I got to bring like the jokes I'd worked on for 3 years, and I had that little 15-minute set or whatever it was,
Right.
and then started getting work on the road right, 91, like right away. And then when you have to do 30, you will find your 30.
Right.
You have to do it. And then I had my first, okay, and I want to give a shout out to Susan Rice. Did you ever meet Susan Rice?
No, I don't think so.
She's from Portland, but she lived in LA at the time. And you talk about we didn't quite cover how it's a man's world in comedy, but Susan Rice honestly was shortchanged. She should have been on the Tonight Show. She was so funny and still is so funny. But yeah, it was unfortunate, not fair that she never to me, got discovered the way that she deserved to get discovered. But she's the first person I went on the road with, and I opened for her, and we toured together. And she showed me the ropes. She told me how it works, and she was my mentor and told
Oh,
me I was funny and laughed, sat in the back, and always laughed the loudest at every show. So Susan Rice, I think.
boy, that's a gift. So you were opening for her. She could have been in the back pacing or going through some routine, but she was out supporting you.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally supported me.
Do you
Every
do
show.
that now? Does that had to have influenced what you do now?
I do. I do like to support people. I do like to sit in the room and support them. And I mean, I'm a little burned out on comedy sometimes, but I do love acknowledging what I've seen and who I'm seeing that's got the spark. And, when it's fun, there's a lot of great comics in Denver right now. There's a scene, there's an amazing scene, a lot of smart, funny, vulnerable people that are doing stand up right now. And I love them. They're my friends. Like, I love that my friends are all 30 years younger than me.
Yeah,
Most of
that's
them.
cool.
Yeah. But you
Well,
can join us. You can come out, do some mics.
cleverly not answering that one. I
dare.
take every guest at the end to the same place. But first, let me say Nancy Norton of nancynorton.tv. That's your website.
Yes.
Uh,
I'm renovating it after it's been dormant for 3 years, just sitting there. Tune in next week at nancynorton.tv.
well, you are, so we have a comedian, a nurse, a speaker, first female winner of the Boston Comedy Festival, winner of Seattle Comedy. What gives you hope?
The word hope is a funny word. I actually have a friend who says, I one time said, "Oh, I hope it grows." I was planting my garden. "I hope it grows." She goes, "You know that hope implies you don't believe it will?" I was like, "What? Hope?" So what gives me hope is knowing that everything, I just know, I just trust everything is somehow, and I don't understand the dynamics. It's hard when the stuff is going on in Ukraine and we see injustices and we know about all this other stuff going on. But there's some trust. I will replace the word with trust. And my son's name is Biswas, which is Nepali for have faith, trust, and believe. Biswas, everything's working out for the highest good. I have to turn it over and trust, even though I cannot understand it right now, what's going on in the world. But I trust it's working out for the highest good somehow.
I see what you did. You took my perfectly good question and you made it better by exchanging the definition of hope. I love that. Well done. You get an A+.
Was that controlling? I think that's a little. Maybe I'll have to owe you an amends later. I think
it's exactly right. Because what I really want for that question is an honest answer, and I love your answer.
Man, thanks. Yeah, I sure hope it is. See how that feels like you don't believe it? I sure hope things are working out for the highest good. I used to say this to people, like, I hope you get home safely. And I'm like, what? You don't think I'm going to get home safely? See me getting home safely. I see everything working out for the highest good somehow. How convenient, though, that I'm not, the one suffering right now. I don't understand it all.
Well, you, for me, you're the poster child of good things happen to people who work hard and are kind and generous and gracious. And it's just been a treat for me. And I think so many of us here in Denver to watch your star rise. And I couldn't be happier and more excited for you.
Brad, thanks for your generous spirit. I really appreciate you. And thanks for the time. This was fun.
Well, I hope it was. Nancy, stay with me. Everybody, keep washing your hands. Take care of each other. Be nice. I trust that you all be well. And
yes, there it is.
Everybody take care. Thanks, everybody.